Welcome to the Featured Anime Podcast. I'm your host, Jack.
And I'm Rick.
And today we are talking about this week's choice, which is Kono Sekai no Karasumi ni, which was a random choice. And for the rest of us, that was In This Corner of the World. If I got my Japanese wrong, I am very sorry. I apologize. But before that,
As you should.
Before all that, we were talking about Brickham Back, the wonderful Boruto themed world that he likes to live in, and CJ, if you want to come back, I'm all for it.
Baby, come back.
If you want to catch a part of that wider conversation, you can go to patreon.com/featured anime podcast. $1 a month will get you access to that bonus content. And more. Now, on to the meat and potatoes. In This Corner of the World came out in November 2016. Producers for it are Genko and Animatsu Entertainment. Studio for it is Mappa. The source is manga. The source of it is a manga. The genres for it are drama and historical setting. The duration or the time for it was almost 3 hours. It was 2 hours and 48 minutes long.
Yeah. It's a bit of a long one.
It was. To me, though, it did not quite feel that long.
Really? I remember looking at the time 36 minutes in going, dear Lord, this is going to be torturous.
Yeah, that's because you didn't watch only yesterday. Yeah, this by comparison.
That's right. I watched it today. I didn't watch it yesterday.
Right. Yeah. This was, yeah, it was painful. It was painful is what it was. It was, yeah, that's what that was. This, not painful. I rather enjoyed it. I thought the movie was rather good.
Well, I didn't know what to expect walking into it, to be perfectly honest. But what I got was not anything close to what I thought I might expect. Not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I want to just point that out right now. It was not bad at all. However, I didn't do any research prior to watching it, you know? And I was not expecting a historic retelling, if you will.
Yeah.
So when I was watching, I was like, is this going to follow actual events, or is this like someone's potential, like, you know, passed down story? Like, I still don't know if it was a story that was passed down, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But it made you.
Well, it doesn't say that it's based off of a novel. They say it's based off a manga. So I would assume that there are great liberties taken to it in terms of it, especially the monster at the very beginning.
Yeah, I thought that was really cute to add. It led to I thought it was a really sweet childlike imagination that permeated the whole story, which was quite nice and refreshing, considering the really, really dramatic and honestly quite difficult material to watch. And as odd or as sad as it sounds, if that's even how you want to portray it, as an American, it gave me what I consider to be a minor insight into how everything else was, because I wasn't taught any of this like from someone else's perspective, you know?
Right.
And I thought potentially, I again didn't do any research on it, but I thought potentially this might have been like a look at the other side, you know, and the raw hurt feelings when peace was declared, by like, what did I lose my hand for? What did I do this for? What was all this for? Like,
100%. Yeah, no, that was, 100% understandable.
A little too raw.
But, I mean, like, that's like getting ahead of us a little bit. I mean, like, let's try and bring some context into it, I mean.
That's fair. I do tend to go ahead. I'm sure CJ didn't, but, whatever.
You know, I mean, like, you know what? Someday you'll reach his level.
His just natural, his natural cadence.
Exactly. I mean, like someday.
So this was day-to-day life, and it made you, I don't know if think is the appropriate term, but it made you recognize that, you know, life before and after war, well, one, it's not pretty. It rarely is, you know, but it brought to light that, in my opinion at least, that the lifestyle and the significance, specifically in my surprise, the technology prior to World War II. Assuming it's all accurate, I was not aware that there was telephone lines and power lines strewn all over Hiroshima and Nagasaki and stuff like that. I was not aware that there was so much electricity. Like, in my head, granted, I'm 36. I was born in 86. And in my mind, the 50s were like primitive, you know? And the war it ended in 45.
So you have the mentality.
Head, I assume like power lines like I work on weren't there.
Me,
you know, like
no.
When I was talking to my grandpa, about his childhood, he's like, the biggest thing is electricity. Like, it wasn't there or prevalent when I was a kid. Now it's in every house. So I was thinking, because he wasn't. Was he alive in World War II? He might have been a kid, but like what I saw there was telephone poles everywhere. There was a section in there where there was more telephone or power lines strewn apart than there was scenery. And there was cars, there was fashion, there was.
Yeah, but that was
incredibly
a thing.
Modern.
Well, honestly, yeah, you also have to take into consideration the time frame for this. This isn't in the early or late 1800s. This isn't pre-World War I. This is pre-World War II, and it starts off in the 30s and goes into the 40s. And culture and society and everything like that, even in the 30s, was taking off and moving on, and it was very prevalent. And there were phones, there were power lines, there were things like that. Majority of the world, though, did survive off of news from the radio more so than anything else. But phones
were like that.
Phones were a very real thing still, though.
Yeah, but like phones and stuff like that. But like, okay, so to give you an idea, when I first came out here across the country and worked out here, one of the rooms I stayed in didn't have wall outlets. So I used the hanging lamp light. I went to Home Depot, I bought a converter so that you could plug this thing into a light socket, and you can use that as a plug of sorts. They did that to listen to the radio. And I was like, holy cow. Like, I recognize doing that because I've done that before. They've got electricity in this house. Like, and it didn't seem to be like a house off of the main road. It was like off a beaten path, but even they had electricity. And it boggled my mind, the access to what I assumed was so sparse and scarce and too advanced for the area, you know? And it gave me an appreciation of things that I took, one, take for granted, and two, like, it just, again, at the time of watching this, I was assuming this was like a story that was handed down and stuff like that. And it surprised me, if that makes any sense. And granted, I took it all for fact. I took it all as fact. Hearing now that it was based off of manga, maybe not as much. Maybe, as you said, liberties were taken and whatnot. But yeah, I didn't see, when I look back, I don't think modern. I don't think, at least not that modern. I was thinking, like, you know, sun goes up, you start working, sun goes down, you stop working.
Okay.
Work by candlelight, you know.
Right. But, you know, I mean, like, in general, just so that way you understand, there was a world and electricity and phones and things like that before the 80s, before the 50s, even in the early 19th, late 18th, late 19th century, early 20th century. So, I mean, like, it was a thing. I mean, like, even in our society, it was the late I want to say it was like late 1880s, 90s is when electricity started gaining traction, being around, experimented with. And then by the time the 30s hit, rural America pretty much had electricity. And I think Japan was pretty much along those same lines. By the time the 30s hits, a majority of places had electricity, if not all, and it just kind of rolled through.
Well, I mean, and that was just, I guess I bring all that up to show that this movie had extreme attention to detail. And when food started getting scarce, and they showed dates all throughout the movie,
right?
And it was nice. It was prevalent. It was poignant. It was on purpose.
It gave you a perception of it. It gave you a perception of time, so that way you could understand the time frame as what's going on. Because there is a portion in the movie, especially at the very beginning, when you're going through these time frames. And it does not look like our main character is actually aging.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But it's like year goes by, 2 years go by. So, like our main character, Suzu, she's like, oh no, she's aging. She's getting older. She's progressing through life, and just like her mentality, how she's always aloof and everything like that has never changed.
And she always apologizes by like crooking her neck and throwing her hands up in a very childlike pose. And there's certain instances in certain areas in the movie, where she looks older. She looks more age appropriate. But yeah, typically throughout everyone else gets bigger and gets older. Well, she stays the same size. So maybe it's because it's telling from her own perspective. She doesn't really see herself aging,
right.
Like personally, I look back 11 years ago when I first came out here, and I'm like, oh yeah, a lot of stuff happened, but in my head, I'm like, I blink and I'm here now, and
yeah,
I tell this to my now wife all the time, just like Ferris Bueller once said, life goes by pretty quick. Sometimes you better stop and take a look at the roses every once in a while.
Yeah.
And yeah, looking back, like this whole last year gone, the last, 100 and what is this? Was this 100 and 205? Dear Lord, the last 200 episodes, a blink.
Yeah. Yep.
A blink.
Yep.
Granted, lots of blinks, and I loved every second of it, especially your solo episodes, sir.
Oh, yeah, I bet you did, you lazy bum. Speaking of which, next patron episode is going to be a rehash of the solo Darling in the Franxx, this time with wonderful Rick, so that way we can hear his wonderful, wonderful voice and hear his views on Darling in the Franxx.
I'm gonna prep by listening to the Featured Anime podcast.
I'm gonna pull that down. That'll be dead. Dead. We don't need any time traveling granddaughters appearing in the timeline, all right?
Even if it's more entertaining.
Yeah, I'll get this now.
No, but like it's when telling, everyone's their own main protagonist,
Yeah.
And I found it very difficult to identify, consistently identify side characters, because they all kind of blended.
I think that was kind of like the point of it, though. So how I watched the movie, you had the main focal point character, however, and I like that they started off where they did. They started off in the 30s, so you could see them growing up, the family, the community, and everything like that. So it's not just, this one thing happens and it's very tragic. It's, you understand like the focal point, the feelings behind it, the emotions and everything like that, to really give you an understanding of everything that's going on. So and you have that build, and you have the industry that's being built on it, and the culture, and it's like, we had our stuff going on, and obviously they're going to take their side of the story and they're going to tell it the way that they deem fit, and they want to humanize it, which 100% I would humanize that too. I mean, because honestly, it's 100% true. she was just a normal person. She's going through their normal traditions and everything like that. And they're doing what they feel is right. And they're doing what they feel is correct, and just understanding that while, we won the war, honestly, it's like the victor of the war determines who is the good guy. It's not like you can win the war and be like, oh, the bad guys won and we're the bad guys. It's like, no, 100%. Everyone on their side, they believe they're the good guys and that we are the bad guys, and vice versa. It's a conflict of opinions and viewpoints, and just and we tend to, as a species, dehumanize the people that are on the opposite end of it. And this takes a very realistic approach of just the humanization of it and no demonization of the other side. It's like, we're just going to tell you this, family, this is what's going on. Obviously you have the knowledge about World War II and the story that's happening, but that's not what this story is about. This is the story about people, the family, and what's happening to them, to Suzu specifically. And
I thought it was very unique in the sense that World War II wasn't, you knew it was going to happen because, again, they keep throwing the timeline up there. Like it's, if you know anything about history, it's inevitable.
Yes.
Because you're going to end up in that time,
Yes.
But it wasn't in the foreground. It happened, but just like a tornado in the middle of the Midwest when you live on the coast, it happened over there,
Yep.
And you might know someone in Minnesota, Tennessee, Texas. You might know someone there, and you might call them and be like, "Hey, are you okay?" That's your only connection to that event. And if they say, "Yeah, we're fine," I don't know what you're talking about, it disappears. Or if they're like, "Yeah, my house is gone," and it becomes more real. And that kind of happened in here too. There were some characters that are like, yeah, no, specifically when you kind of leave the slums area and go to the nicer part of town, and the people in the nice part of town look at the people who from the slums like, what are you doing here? This is not your world. This is obviously. And our main character was like, wow, this is so nice. This is so weird. It's different.
So to kind of help you out a little bit, I mean, like, you recognize the girl who gave her directions, right?
Yeah, it was. Well, no, yes and no. I have an idea, but so with our main character, I feel like this could be a Studio Ghibli, or at least a connection to a Studio Ghibli, because of all the folklore stuff that kept happening. In the beginning of the movie, there was that monster that kidnaps lost children, and that when it's nighttime, it goes to sleep, and you're able to trick it if you're able to outsmart, stuff like that. That's where she met her was that future husband? I couldn't really tell who he was.
Yep.
And like, he recognized her from that thing, so maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. Who knows? Because again, folklore. And then the child in the attic, the child running in the roof. It's an old folk tale that, if you treat them right, it's an old spirit. If you don't, then it's bad. But she met that lady, that's that child's spirit, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So was it a spirit, or did she walk into a spirit realm, which is why everything looked new and nice and all that stuff? Or was that spirit child not a spirit child? Was it a real child Granny kidnapped somewhere?
Well, it's not that Granny kidnapped her somewhere. The child was very poor and she lived in an attic, hiding.
And why did Granny call her a spirit?
Because that's how Granny perceived her.
Oh. So she was just hiding in the attic and living off Granny. And Granny was just like, the spirits are doing that.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, I get weird in an odd way. So, okay, so maybe that person was real, but how did she go from rags essentially to riches when our main character didn't,
It's not that she went rags to riches. She went rags to geisha.
Oh.
So
I did not make that connection.
Yeah, that's why she's like, hang on, I have to go. And she went, she got permission to be able to go do it, and showed her how to get out of there. And, it's Like that's like her whole getup was very much that. It wasn't
that makes so much sense.
It wasn't oh yeah, I went from rags to riches. It's like, no, you shouldn't be here because, and then they commented on the red light district being burnt down. In case you didn't know, she was in that area.
Ooh, that's rough.
Hey.
Why was the red light district the most fancy district? That's so odd.
Why would you want to go to a dirty ass place when you're military and you're trying to give the soldiers a hoorah before they're going out there fighting for your country?
Okay.
I mean, like, you also have to understand, like, it's a very different, like, mentality and viewpoint. So, like, the geishas you're not going out there and dressing out in scantily clad clothes. You're supposed to look a very particular way. You're supposed to dress a very particular way. You're supposed to carry yourself and everything like that. And, you have the more floozy ones, sure, but, they're still going to have the makeup. They're going to still have the kimono on. They're still going to look a very particular way, and they're going to try and give and send out a very particular message. Not, hey, we're totally diseased and trashy and everything like that. We got cesspit over here.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Okay. Yeah, I didn't take that away at all. I made the connection, but it didn't
connect, link with each other.
Yeah. It didn't make any sense to me. So the connections are now there. That makes perfect sense, actually. Because they were like kind of pissed that the red light district died.
Yeah. I mean, like, shit happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was like, you shouldn't be here because, so and so might take you. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, you might be mistaken, and you're once you're here, you're here.
Yeah, and no one's helping her leave either because they don't
care.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so maybe it wasn't as spiritual and as mystical as she once thought.
Right. Right,
but good.
And that's also kind of like ties into her being like, I want to go ahead, and hence the comment of, someone left me the red fleshy fruit so that way I can try some, and the comment, because that was also in direct correlation to Suzu saying, leave some here for her.
Mm-hmm. So she tried the kimono and the red fleshy fruit and stuff.
Yep. So
yeah, man, it was a trip. It was a roller coaster of emotion.
It was.
Where you feel bad when bad things happen, and you see. It was a long enough movie that they were able to etch in my mind the desperation that the characters would face, did face, and maybe not PTSD, but the utter shock of, I can't believe this happened. Now, me as the viewer, I understand it did. I've got the history, thankfully, to be able to be like, yeah, no, that actually happened,
Yeah. But not only that, it's they also had the fantastic storytelling of being able to tell not just one complete story, but several stories, or fill you in on the stories of other people. So, and it's not like you had to understand the complete motive behind a particular individual. It was like, we're going to tell you enough so that you understand. Like, Suzu going out, getting married, and everything like that. The kid who, like, for example, right, the kid she drew the paintings for at the very beginning and gave it to him and everything like that. That comes around full circle, like complete circle. He joins the military. He's in the Navy and everything like that. He's happy. He's having, he gets to see her again. He still has very fond feelings for her, obviously, and he truly cares about her. And then he brings up the painting and he tells the story about the painting, like the problems that actually came is like, they thought I was this great artist and it sure as hell wasn't me, but then they also like show at the same time, like he's like, I'm here to try and offer you that escape. I'm here to try and give you that, what you want. And the husband, like feeling like I took you away from someone else. I I forced you to marry me. You don't really want to be here. Like saying, look, I understand I forced you to be here or this or that. And just like kind of like giving her the out that if she wants that out, and like her going, no, you didn't force me to be here. I want to be here. I love you.
And it makes perfect sense. The way things were going, you know?
Yeah. No, I know.
So, I mean, I hate to say it, there's not really much more I can say, you know?
Well, no, I mean,
but
no, there's a lot that could be said, like bringing it back to the comment about the lost hand that you dropped at the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
So like the story about how she lost a hand, how she feels, and then the family and the reactions to everything like that being what they are. It's not like,
it's not unnatural. It's not odd. It's not, there's so many different things that go on. Like she lost her friend's or her daughter. Was it her friend's daughter or her daughter? I'm not sure.
It was her sister-in-law's daughter. That was her niece.
So her niece blew up right beside her.
Yes. And she lost a hand.
Yeah. And then she lost a hand, specifically the one she drew with.
Yeah. And it's not just the fact that she lost everything. She lost her
motivation, her everything.
Yeah. And it's, you know, you have the entire roller coaster of emotions and everything like that. So
I feel like she kind of lost herself.
Yeah, no, she did. And the emotions and everything like that, understandable. I mean, and they do a great job of conveying it.
It was it was enough. Even though it was a really slow start and really difficult view, I would 100% watch it again.
Yeah.
So it's something that I would be very, very happy.
Yeah.
But it's just the animations kind of sucked, in my opinion. It was, but it wasn't the point of the movie.
It was passable. The animations were passable. So, yeah. I mean, like, there's honestly a lot more that we could say, especially with the events leading up to it. It gets very hectic, very, very, I want to say, very dramatic as it progressively gets to that point. And then when it reaches to the point to where they finally are at the end, where the bombs are dropped, and then immediately, like, the emotions and feelings and that they convey, like, literally, like, once you reach that point, you know, you're like, yeah, no, I get it.
Oh, absolutely.
I get it.
You're like, this happened here, this happened there. But just like I was saying with not the hurricane, the tornado in the middle of the state, like, if you're not there, unless you know someone, you're not really connected, you know?
Yeah. No, I gotcha. There's honestly a lot more that I could say, but I feel like we're just gonna kind of drone on a little bit more. I mean,
yeah.
Granted, this is gonna be it's not a super long episode, which I am fine with. But the movie is, I feel, 100% worth watching. 100%.
Oh, I agree.
100%. So, as tradition would dictate, sir, on a scale of up to 10, how would you rate this?
Well, realistically speaking, genuinely speaking, I was not a fan of the animation. The story did drag, but in the last half, I feel like it picked up and it made sense, and the callbacks were quite nice, and the story kind of told itself. Felt very generic, felt very organic, not generic. It felt very organic, and it draws you in, and it makes you feel sympathy. And then when peace is finally called, and you see the genuine reaction that you probably might have, like, what the hell am I fighting for? Why did they die? Why did I lose my hand? What was the point in all of this? Like, if we knew we were going to lose to begin with, like, what? The anger, the frustration, the desperation, and finally the acceptance. It was very real, you know?
Yeah.
So I would, if I took the emotion out of it, it'd be like a 4. But because they were able to draw all that out and kind of encompass everything I would look for, you know, I'm going to give it a 7. I would show this to other people. I would watch it again. I would recommend this one.
Okay. No, I'm honestly right there with you. I would recommend other people watching it. I would actually actively push other people to watch it, especially if they're wanting a different viewpoint, wanting something to kind of like break them out of the normal viewing habits, you know. I would give this an 8. I give it an 8 because this is something that I would actually buy the movie. I would watch it again gladly. I actually know a few people that I'll probably tell that they should check it out. I mean, and it being easily available on a couple major streaming platforms that I know a lot of people watch. But yeah, no, that's so yeah, 8 for me, 7 for you. I feel like it was well worth it. I liked the animation. I liked the art, the acting, everything. It just worked out worked out beautifully, I feel. So it was well worth it for me. All right. Next week we are watching another movie, and it's called When Marnie Was There. And it's a Studio Ghibli, and it's still fairly new. Came out in 2016, I think is what we said. 2014, I think is what we said, or something like that.
Let the tears flow.
Right? Well, that's all the time that we have for today. If you feel like we got something right, something wrong, did it too much justice, not enough justice, or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. All our contact information and everything like that's going to be in the show notes for you, or you can go to our website, featuredanimepodcast.com. We have all our contact information listed on there for you. So feel free to go there and reach out to us. If you have a recommendation, please, by all means, let us know what it is. This next one actually is a recommendation. When Marnie Was There, it is a recommendation by Angel. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it's going to be another great one. We'll find out, though. We'll find out.
Yeah, we will.
And until next time, I'm Jack.
I'm Rick, and we'll see you for another explosive episode. Later.